Welcome to The Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey, everybody, this is Holden again here with The Sober Unicorn. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Today, we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing fabulous. Just
Good.
busy life. So Kevin and I actually met at the Big D Roundup, which is the big Dallas Roundup here in Dallas, Texas. It's a big, I called it a big gay sober event
Pretty much.
for for everybody, and I thought the Big D was so fitting because it was a big gay event. Um, so me and him met there and actually clicked really well, and I kind of wanted to bring him on here and just kind of share his stories. So why don't you tell everybody kind of who you are, what your drug of choice was, and how long you've been sober?
Well, my name is Kevin S., and I'm an alcoholic. And I have been sober since May 18th, 2018. This is my second go around in sobriety. My first sobriety date was in 2013. But I've been given the gift of sobriety now for over 4 years. I personally destroyed the vodka industry when I got sober. Their stocks plummeted somewhere in the neighborhood of 30% on the first day after I stopped drinking. I was quite a champion vodka drinker, and the rest of my time now I spend being a professional musician. I'm a music teacher and professional performer, pianist, conductor, and soloist, singer, and am very grateful to have an absolutely amazing life thanks to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and my sober family.
That's awesome. I mean, everything that you do makes me just want to drink myself.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Drinking's
So
bad, okay?
yes, no, it definitely is. I mean, I was actually there to see you pick up your 4-year chip, and it's just so incredible to see so many people rally together to celebrate these milestones for you and everybody else that was there. I mean, we had somebody that was, I believe it was like 39 years sober.
I think that Ross W is something like 38 years sober. Yeah, he got sober the year I graduated from high school. So, or the year, no, he got sober my sophomore year in high school, so, or in college. So, from 1984. So, yeah, 38 years.
Dang, that is such a long time. I mean, so why don't you, I mean, of course, this is, like you said, your second time around. So give everybody kind of a small backstory on what led up to, of course, getting sober the first time and kind of what happened, and then why this time is sticking for you.
Well, I've always been a bit of a party boy, and I always loved to be out and about. And the first thing to do after any rehearsal or concert or day, or getting up in the morning, was to go find a drink. And for years that worked just fine. When you're young and you have serious metabolism and all that kind of stuff, you can handle that kind of thing. But the older I got, the more problematic it became, and a very, very bad night of drinking led me to do something really, really stupid, which landed me in a great deal of hot water. And dealing with that hot water also just exacerbated my drinking problem, because I drank to relieve the fear and the everything else that went along with being in that situation. And I used to perform in a music festival out in Montana every year, and the last year I went there was a complete disaster, and every bit of it was my fault and because of my drinking. And I got a letter in the mail that said, "You're not coming back because obviously your partying is more important to you than your music." And that is where it struck me. That's where I realized that the one thing in my life that I absolutely could not give up or do without was my music. Music has been the central part of my existence for as long as I can remember. Music runs in my family, and my musical abilities showed up very, very early, and I was destined to do what I do now. And that was about to be taken away from me. And so I went for help, and I managed to stay sober for about 2.5 years, and it was all fine and good until I decided one day that I had it down, and there was a little bit of resentment. Somebody pissed me off in a meeting, and it's like, fuck this, I don't need it. And stayed sober for another 6 or 7 months. But while I was on a road trip, I thought, yeah, I can just have a little something, and little something led to a bigger something, and a bigger something landed me right back where I was. About, well, it probably took about 1.5 to 2 years to get there. But one night in 2018, I realized that I was right back in the cesspool that I had been in when I got sober the first time. And I reached out to some people in the program and said, I'm in trouble. Will someone help me? And they did within minutes. And consequently, I was able to get sober again. And now there is, you never say never because, I'm not in control of everything, but there is nothing that I can conceive of that would ever cause me to want to drink again because the life I have now is so full and rich and fortunate that to willfully destroy it again with the poisons of alcohol is just something that I'm not willing to do. And I pray every day that my higher power will give me one more day of sobriety so that I can continue to enjoy this wonderful life.
Yes, I mean, just like you, I ruined something that I enjoyed so much doing that was traveling, and that's when it kind of kicked in. Was like, you're ruining the things that you enjoy in life strictly based off of you wanting to go for that next drink.
Yep.
And so that's when I was like, bitch, get it under control. And I mean, I quoted you last time, and I think this time around, I mean, you're 4 years in, and you are still incredibly surrounded by the fellowship of AA. And I quoted you in the last episode stating that if you want to stay sober, you need to surround yourself, you need to center yourself essentially in the rooms. Because if you ever wanted to drink, just like last time, you had these resentments. So if you ever wanted to drink, you would never be able to hit the door because none of those people would allow you to do that.
Yeah, and that statement, I believe that, and I preach that. But that statement originated with one of my mentors in the program, Bill S., who said that to me when he helped me get sober this second time, and he sat me down and gave me a serious talk about you have to be a continuous and forever participant in your program. You can't ever let it be passive. You have to be active in your program every single day of your life. And if you don't, you run the risk of finding that door. And so, consequently, I try my best to be of service and to get to at least 2 or 3 meetings a week and participate in the social activities and help be a leader if I can be. Now that I've got a few years under my belt, I'm in a position where I can start doing some leadership things, and for that, I'm really grateful. But the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is central to my life. I would have none of the things that I have today: my home, my career, my chosen family, my financial stability, my emotional stability. I could go on for days. Every single one of those things is a direct result of being in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And and for me, it's awesome too, because at Lambda here in Dallas, we have 4 meetings a day. So if I find myself being squirrely or lonely or bored or anything, there's always a way to go be with other people, to have some fun. We often go out for fellowship, meals and stuff after the meetings. We have a game night. There is always something available to me and a circle of friends available to me pretty close to immediately. So if anything ever starts to go wrong, it's there, and it's a great resource, and it's something that I take advantage of, and it keeps me happy. It keeps me stable.
Yeah, that's something that I've had to do because there's something I enjoy doing that is always central around a bar. It's I love to play darts. And where's a dartboard other than in the
In a
fucking
bar,
bar?
I used to be in a dart league, and I drank many a pitcher of beer, and my dart playing is pathetic.
Mine is actually improved since getting sober, thank
Mine
goodness.
is sad.
But I make sure that if I am putting myself in that situation, there's two alcoholics that know where I'm at,
That's good.
know the address beforehand. And if I can, if they're available, I normally will take one of them with me. And
Mhm.
normally I try to take somebody more long term so they're not going to get squirrely with me. And next thing you know, we got two relapsers.
Well,
Um,
just as importantly, and that's a really good strategy. And to add to that, that's just as important is when you're in that sort of situation, listen to yourself and have your own way to leave. I occasionally like to go see the dancing boys at some of the bars here in Dallas. I'm not going to lie. And I have a friend who's a normie who likes to go do that with me, but he understands completely that when I say I'm ready to go, that means we're leaving. And if he wants to stay later, he will either say, I want to stay late, let's meet there, or he will say he will take me home if we're in his car and go back if he wants to. And I think it's also very important to realize that it is absolutely okay to say, hey, I'm done. I've had enough of this. it's time to go, and to act on those things. And the people around you, if they don't understand that in your sobriety, then they're not really your friends anyway.
Yeah.
So
And I love how in sobriety we're actually finally able to tell ourselves we've had enough. Because
oh
when
yeah.
our in our drinking days, there was never too much. It was
Nope.
never too much. So I know within the realm of AA, we have to have a full reliance on a higher power.
Yep.
And I know as many people growing up, especially some of our listeners are, I mean, we have gay, straight, but I mean, many of our listeners are the LGBT community. So we have a lot of prejudice. So, I mean, did you come into the meetings with that prejudice? How did you overcome that? And how did you solidify that relationship with your higher power?
Well, fortunately for me, I was not raised in the South. I was raised in the Midwest, although the Midwest can be very conservative. But my parents never treated religion as a weapon. We were a church going family. I was choir director in my church by the time I was 14 years old. My dad was board chair. My mother was chair, president of the women's organization. I mean, we're very churchy kind of people, but religion was never used as a weapon. And I never came to uh, fear God, or to be in a situation where I felt that I was being condemned by God or a religion. But my religious beliefs and my beliefs in God have evolved quite a bit over the last few years. In that, as an adult, I've had some really bad experience in churches. I've been treated very badly. I have been shunned by a church for something that happened in my past. And, as far as I understand, the teachings of Jesus Christ and the Christian church is that your principal job is to save sinners. And, if anybody worked the 12th step, it was Jesus. He spread that message to everybody else. And to be rejected by that, started to make me really think about what my relationship with my higher power, whom I will choose to call God, and whatever anybody else wants to call him is totally fine with me. I make no judgments on that. And, do you. But, I have come to. I have come to release myself from just about every kind of religious dogma. A lot of people who come into the rooms, especially gay people that come into the rooms, have been beaten down by their church. It's hellfire and brimstone, and you're a sinner, and you're going to hell, and you can't be gay, and and fortunately for me, I'm a very well read and very well educated person, and I am perfectly capable of thinking for myself. And what I have had to overcome is a fear of thinking for myself. And in the last 5 or 6 years, I have come to realize that institutionalized religions, all of them, are essentially evil political cabals. I really, excuse me, I have little to no use for them whatsoever. And I attend church every week, and I sing in a choir every week. And at the end of the month, I get a nice paycheck for doing that. And if it were otherwise, I would not attend church. A few years ago, when I had a really, really, really bad experience in a church, I quit going altogether. I didn't go anywhere. And that lasted for about, probably a year and a half, until this present situation came open. And the choir director at this particular congregation is a very dear friend of mine, and the music is good, and I get paid well, and the church is very open and very welcoming. But I told him on no uncertain terms that I was going to come, and I was going to sing, and I would come to the choir parties and that sort of stuff. But anything beyond that was completely out of the question. And he respects that. And and I'm not afraid to call bullshit when I see it in church institutions. And there is a lot of bullshit in church institutions. And I think what was very important for me is that I have been able in the last few years to release myself from the human political dogma that is organized religion. And I can be completely comfortable and free in my relationship with God as I understand God, as is spelled out in the steps and in the big book. I am not afraid to buck some old dude in a pretty cape that stands up on the altar and says, this is the way it's supposed to be. Well, says fucking who? If you think about how the Bible as we know it today was written, none of the teachings of Jesus were even written down until 90 years after he was on earth. So think about just playing one game of telephone with your friends at a kid's birthday party, and how much one sentence can change in a matter of minutes just going around a circle of people. Think about what could happen in 90 years. And also go back and look at the history of organized religion and realize that it has been used over and over and over again by powerful, wealthy, educated people to subdue and subvert the people who were less educated and were poor so that they could have power and dominion over them. And I just don't buy it. Um, I I miss Christopher Hitchens very much and his acerbic wit, but he wrote this wonderful book called God is Not Great: How Religion Poisons Everything. Now, he was an atheist. I am not an atheist. I respect his atheism. I'm sure he respected that I was not. But by the same token, he laid out a very clear case for how organized religion is evil. And I essentially agree with that. Half the time, so if somebody from the church hears this, I may lose my job. But during sermons and other boring stuff, when I'm not singing, I got my phone concealed in my choir folder and I'm reading the news. Because at this point, I just don't care. I'm 58 years old. I'm a grown ass man. I can believe what I want to believe. And I have never been more spiritually fit or more in tune with my higher power than I have these last 4 or 5 years. And it is a wonderful feeling. It is so liberating to be free of that pressure, of that dogma and that fear and that bullshit that gets spewed from pulpits every Sunday.
You're listening to The Sober Unicorn. We'll be right back after this short break. This episode is brought to you by Von Shine Creatives at handmadeandgreat.com. Von Shine Creatives is a sober-owned business featuring finely crafted goat's milk and vegan soaps. Treat yourself or someone you love today. Take $5 off of $25 on all your purchases site-wide, and remember, it's always free shipping. Use the coupon code SOBER, which helps support Von Shine Creatives and the Sober Unicorn podcast all at once. Link and coupon code will be in the bio. Now back to our episode. So I think it's very important to let everybody know Kevin is speaking strictly on his experience when it comes to his past. So if you are in an organized religion listening, it's by no means to degrade or diminish your beliefs whatsoever. And so the thing is, I kind of had not similar experiences growing up, but the same experience of being ostracized and kicked out of the church. I was incredibly involved in the church. It was a non-denominational Christian church in San Antonio, and rumors flew that I was gay. And
Horrors.
And pastor sat me down and he's like, "So are you gay?" And I'm like, "No, of course not, queen." And
girl, please.
And he just said, "Well, just so you know, if you are, you're going to hell." And from then on, I was kicked out of the church. I was no longer able to teach Sunday school for the younger ones. And I mean, I was at that church like 3 fucking days a week.
Yeah.
And I never went back. My first partner was incredibly religious. I go back to church with him one day in a 4-year relationship. And what does the Harvest Church of California preach about? Homosexuality. I was like, all right, we out. We're leaving. So coming into the AA program, I was like, if they talk about God, I'm out this bitch. Like, I'm not dealing with it. And of course, my first meeting, what was it about?
A God meeting.
Everybody was discussing God this, God that, and I was like,
but I think the thing that's important to say to anybody who's in the program or anybody who's trying to get into the program, anybody who's trying to get sober, it does not say in the big book that you have to believe in First Baptist's God or Grace Episcopal's God or Lamb of God Lutheran's God. It says that you have to give your will and your life over to the control of a power greater than yourself. Mm-hmm. That can mean absolutely anything. For many people, it's the AA group itself, because that group has more power than they do over alcohol and over and has managed to find a way to restore their lives to sanity. So the dogma of religion is utterly irrelevant when it comes to getting sober. You don't need it, and you don't have to be afraid of leaving it behind. I promise you, you're not going to hell.
Yeah, and
if you do, I'll be there with you. We'll have great times. No, I have no intention of burning in hell, because I don't think there is one. But anyway,
and that's kind of what happened. Is after the meeting, a gentleman named Anthony pulled me aside and kind of was like, "Well, I don't feel I'm as bad as most of you alkies," and he kind of read the more about alcoholism. regarding like not taking a trip, switching to beer, to bourbon, to this, to scotch.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he
All
pulled
those old tricks that don't work.
yes, exactly. And then he pulled out the we agnostic when it discusses a God of your understanding, like your own conception. And that's what's like, okay, well, I at that time believed more in the power of the universe, more of like the law of attraction, where it's like you get if you put out positive energy, you'll receive positive
Hmm.
energy. Um, and the biggest, if anybody doesn't know what that is, the easiest example I could ever come up with is you wake up in the morning, you stub your toe. You're immediately, fuck, shit, damn it, fuck this bullshit. And like the rest of your day normally plays out incredibly crappy. And that's because the moment you woke up, you started putting negative energy into the world
Hmm.
via stubbing your toe. But it like now today, I wake up, I pray for the most part. I meditate most days. And so I'm starting my day in a positive fashion on the way to work, talking to my sponsor just about life, about what's going good, what's going bad. And my day plays out okay. Yes, we all have days where shittiness happens, but
Sure.
it was so important to me to come up with my own conception. I mean, now that I'm going longer into sobriety, seeing that the prayer meditation works, I myself am more wanting to identify who this God is. I don't really want it to be the universe anymore. I think that's what helped me move forward. But I am leaning more towards a not Christian organized God, but more of a Christian viewed God.
And that's fine. My viewpoint of God is based on Christianity and or the Judeo-Christian tradition because that's how I was raised and that's what I know. That doesn't mean that I haven't read just about every word that Lama Surya Das, the Buddhist monk and writer, has written, and that I'm afraid to apply the principles of other religions that are not Christianity to my way of life. I find that the Four Agreements. By Don Miguel Ruiz are, four of the best principles to live a daily life by of anything that I've ever read. It's just this little tiny book that I read in about an hour and a half. I think something that I tell sponsees and that I tell other people in the program that I think is very, very important. We are in Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever program it is that you choose to be in. Smart Recovery, there are lots and lots of different ways to be sober. I happen to use a particular 12-step program that most people can identify, but I won't break the traditions by naming it. But I will say that we are in recovery to get better. We want to have a life that is happy, joyous, and free. And one of my pet peeves of some folks in the program is that they sit there for months and wallow in misery. It's like, you're here to get better. Fucking do it. That's why I tell my sponsees that they've got 2 weeks per step to complete their steps. It's like we're not going to sit there and wallow in that fourth step for 6 weeks or that ninth step for 6 weeks. Get it done and get the nasty stuff out of your life. Ask God or your higher power as you understand him to remove it. I hear people talk all the time about, oh, well, I'm asking my higher power to help me with blah, 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 to help me with blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, your higher power, one that has all power, and that one is God, as stated in certain literature. And so don't pussyfoot around with, oh, can you help me get through this today? Take it away, God. Would you please remove this obstacle from my mental health, from my physical health, from my financial health, whatever it is? And I'm not a Joel Osteen, and I'm not going to stand here and say that, if you go to 6 meetings a week, that you're going to get rich and you're going to get laid every 3 hours. That's not going to happen. But we're in this to be happy and we're in this to recover. And just the other day I was in a situation where I was just kind of like annoyed. I'd been very, very busy. I had a lot to do with the Big D Roundup. I was catching up on my professional work. I'm getting ready to go on a trip, and I was just like and I was in Target, and I just all of a sudden it came down on me. It's like, you whiny bitch, you get paid extremely well to do something that you absolutely love to do from home on your own schedule. You can come and go as you please. You've got a house, you got a warm bed, you got a car, you got a cute cat. You get laid fairly often. Quit your fucking bitching. And I felt a whole lot better. I just kind of like lifted off of me right there. It's like, why are you whining? There are people who are hungry, and you're whining because you've got to work 6 hours today instead of 4. I mean, give me a
and
break, right?
and my thing is too is like don't ask for something specific. I personally I ask for guidance. So the thing is like we go down a path in life, and I think that our higher power has laid out that path. And so the thing is, but we as humans have free will and freedom of choice. And so the thing is like I just ask that he guide me down his path. Whatever his path may be, there is a path that he has laid out for us,
Yeah,
and
I
that has
agree.
helped.
I agree with that, but there are times in life when we come across specific problems that we need help dealing with. It may be an illness, it may be a loss of a job, it may be any number of things. And I think that we can't just sit back and say, "Oh, thy will be done," and I know a job's going to show up. We're going to have to go out and apply for some gigs, right? If we're sick, we're going to have to go to the doctor. And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking God to remove an obstacle from us. If you're in a terrible relationship, if you're physically ill, there's nothing wrong with asking God for God's healing power, or God's power to remove those obstructions from us. I mean, if you look at the third step prayer, it talks about a lot, take away my difficulties so that my freedom from them can be a guide to others. And I'm paraphrasing. You think I would have the third step prayer memorized? Bad alcoholic that I am, don't have it memorized. But you get my point. So I think we can be. I think we can be as fundamentalist about our recovery program as people can be about their religion, and I think that's a bad path.
One, two is also the seventh step prayer. When we go through step four is a doozy for most people. It's normally what pulls people out of the program because they sit and marinate in that bullshit for so long. And I think it's good that you give 2 weeks. I was given 48 hours
Ooh,
to complete writing my fourth step.
that's an aggressive sponsor. I try to
And
be firm but nice.
it was it was pretty aggressive, and I'm thankful it was, because there was a lot of stuff brought into that I was like, oh my god, like I did not realize how much these people from 15 years ago, 10 years ago, still affected me to this day. And so moving through that, and of course, like all these resentments and hatred, and then realizing your own part in it, but at least letting go of that bullshit, and then realizing the people that you need to make things right with. There are a few people in my forceps that I wasn't able to make things right with, or not willing to make things right with, which of course my sponsor agrees with me on certain people, to not make those amends. But I think it's just living amends, where moving forward, I don't make those same mistakes. Moving forward, I am just better to other people. So I mean, I kind of work my past amends by just being more of service to other people in my future.
I think one of the promises is that we will not regret the past, neither will we shut the door on it. And to me that means, excuse me, to me that means we can't sit, like you said, and wallow in that, marinate in that fourth step forever, and feel tons of guilt. I mean, there are certainly no shortage of things that I have done in my alcoholic past that have brought me shame and have brought me guilt. But over the years, and through whatever circumstance, at this point I have paid the debt. I have ninth step those. I have made my amends for those things as far as I could possibly do it. And so there comes a time when you have to stand up tall and live your life and be proud of who you are, and think, if nothing else, look what I've become from what I was. And wallowing in guilt and morbid self pity, is dangerous, because it can lead to relapse. It can lead to going back out and drinking. It can really turn your progress in your program into, oh fuck it, I'm just going to go drink, it doesn't matter. And that's been one of the most difficult things for me to do in my own recovery, is to completely let go of the things of the past and realize that, a, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There's nothing I can do about them. They're there, they happened, some people were affected, I was affected, but it's gone, it's long in the
Mm-hmm.
past. And I think that's a lot of the way that I think about fear. The only thing that we can be afraid of doesn't exist. We can't be afraid of the past because it's gone and it's done and it can't hurt us anymore. We can't be afraid of the present unless there's someone about to broadside us, or there's somebody pointing a gun in our face or something like that. We're drowning. But most of us sitting here right now listening to this podcast, you and I talking on this podcast, are in no danger or no harm. So we don't have anything to be afraid of. So what can we be afraid of? Something that might happen in the future, and we don't know what that's going to be, nor can we invent it or control it. So
Hmm.
there's really no point in being afraid.
There's I've said it on two other episodes at the very beginning, but I mean, if you're just tuning in, listening to the late in episodes, it's if you live in fear, fear is in the future. So if you're living in fear, you are predicting the future, and if you're predicting the future, you're playing God and not relying on God.
Right.
And so the thing is like we don't. I mean, I think a lot of my fear at least stems from the future, about like what's gonna happen, what's this, and it's like I can't predict that. Like I just need to live in the here and now and in the present because that's all I can control at the moment, at least. Well, not. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
control everything, but um,
One of the most important lessons that my sponsor taught me is that I used to have a habit because of the problems that happened to me a few years ago. Is that anytime something official would show up, if there'd be a letter from the landlord or an email from the HOA or something, I immediately went to the place like, oh my God, I'm going to get thrown out. I'm not going to have a home. I'm going to lose my job. I'm blah, 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 blah. And it was sort of a reasonable fear because during the playing out of my story, some of those things happened. But my sponsor's like, you can't go to that horrible place every time the phone rings. You just can't do that. And he said to me, he's like, since X date, how many times of any one of those things that you were afraid of happened? And the answer is a big fat zero.
mhm.
Nothing that I conjured up in my head has ever happened to me. So I've learned to kind of get get through that. It's still a trigger, and every now and then I have to, I when it comes to certain things, I like to be very private, and I don't give away a lot of information. And that's okay too. But I can't live in fear of every time that I have to interact with somebody or something that might, be official or have some power or something like that.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think kind of like going back to the main topic of the episode, higher power. A lot of people stick on step 2 and 3 when it comes to the program. Step 2 is admitting that there's a higher power bigger than who we are, and step 3 is handing things over. The thing is, don't allow, like, if you are unable to identify your higher power at the very beginning, that's okay. You just have to
Mhm.
know that there's something bigger than what you are, which, I mean, hell, we already know that there's something bigger than what we are. I mean, I'm 400 pounds. You lighter than me. I'm bigger than you. So it's like, there is,
But you don't have power over me, girl. Be gone from
there's,
here. You have no power here.
there's always something bigger than what we are as humans. I mean, the universe, the space, I mean, just everything. So don't allow not being able to identify it stop you from moving forward in the program or pull
Well,
you immediately back out.
yeah, and what I think is important too is just because we come to the conclusion that the religion or the God or the faith or whatever that we have grown up with is has no power over us and is no longer relevant, doesn't mean that okay, it's like, well, that's done. I think that it's very important that we as alcoholics and drug addicts actively and daily seek a spiritual journey, and seek out some sort of thing, because everybody, no matter who you are, I don't care how tough you are, I don't care how macho you are, how butch you are, whatever it is, everybody is going to find a time in their life when they need comfort and when they need some sort of metaphysical, spiritual, religious thing to give them the reassurance that what they're going through is going to pass and that they're going to be okay and that they are going to have the tools and the wherewithal to make it through or solve that problem. If you just completely divorce yourself from any kind of spiritual connection with a higher power, then you truly are lost. You have no hope. And what is it that we share is our experience, strength, and hope. And I think that that hope for me comes from God, knowing that in every situation, some of them very terrifying, that I have been in the last, 10, 11 years of my life, that I have come through it and that I have come through it stronger and that I have come through it with more discipline and more ability to cope and have come out to be a better, kinder, more understanding person. Now, people who know me know that I'm opinionated and that I like to give my opinion and that I don't hold back. And I'm at a point in life where, if you have a problem with, who I am and what I stand for, fuck off. I don't care. But that doesn't mean that I'm not compassionate toward people and that I'm not willing to listen to other people's points of view, because sometimes my point of view is wrong. I mean, we have to promptly admit when we're wrong. But by the same token, I will never allow anyone to deny my right to exist. And to deny my right to exist as I am and who I am and whom I choose to love and whom I choose to sleep with, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All those Pride Month things.
And also too is, think about, like, say if you were like me and pushed out of religion, pushed out of the church at a young age, really truly sit down with yourself and reflect that when you were involved in the church before getting pushed out and you had a conscious contact with God, how did that make you feel? And then who is it directly that pushed you out of the church? It wasn't God, it was his followers. And so the things you have to realize, that no matter where you are in life, you will be accepted by your higher power. Just because a few of his followers' perceptions were skewed, it made you feel a type of way to make you feel no longer welcome. That was the follower and not him himself. And so that's one thing I really had to come to the conclusion was, it was never God that pushed me out of the church. It was his fucked up followers, for whatever perception that they had about homosexuality and stuff like that. Because there are many people and many followers of the Christian faith that voted for gay marriage and for our rights. I mean, yes, there are many that vote against it too, but there are atheists that vote against it. There are Satanists. I mean, it's the thing is, there's good and bad in everything, and it's better to look at the positive so you can actually just live a free life yourself. So,
yeah.
before,
I think it was very telling the other day when Representative Ted Lieu stood on the floor of the House of Representatives and was giving a speech about how the Republican Party is attempting to retract many of the rights that the LGBT community has fought for so long. And he said, I want to take a moment for all my religious and Christian brethren here. He didn't put it exactly this way, but I want to take a moment, and I am going to recite everything that Jesus Christ said about homosexuality. And he was silent for about 20 seconds, and he said, I yield back. In words, gave back his time. He made it very clear that Jesus said absolutely nothing about it. There's not one single word attributed to Jesus about being gay.
that's crazy.
It's true, and people said, well, my Bible says blah 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 blah. I would be shocked as Christopher Hitchens said of Jerry Falwell. He doesn't think that he believes in the Bible. He doubts very seriously if he could ever actually sit down and read a long book. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the thumpers out there. I doubt very seriously if they've taken the time to read the 1,000+ pages that is the Christian Bible.
Yeah, for sure. So before we end the episode, is there anything quickly that you'd like to share? And also, if anybody resonated with your story and wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that I'm here for any suffering alcoholic, and I don't have a big social media presence. I kind of eschew social media. However, I am on Twitter, and you can find me there at Maestro214, Maestro214. And you're welcome to follow me on Twitter and reach out to me in a private message if you need help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day.
Thank you very much, Holden. I'm glad to be here, and I love the work you're doing, and I hope that your listenership grows and grows.
Awesome. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember, everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.